Chances are that you know Yvonne Strahovski from her chilling portrayal of Serena Joy on The Handmaid's Tale, but you probably don't know her whole story. From growing up in Australia to becoming an Emmy nominee, here's a look at her stunning transformation. Strahovski was born on July 30th, 1982 in Sydney, Australia to Polish immigrant parents. An only child, she was a straight-A student in school. She reportedly once said, "I loved school. I loved putting on my uniform and doing homework every day. I was one of those good students that the teachers liked. I guess that's got to be a pretty nerdy, geeky part of me." Outside of school, Strahovski took weekly Polish lessons on Saturdays, as she revealed to GQ in 2015. "It's my first language, and we speak it at home. I was a goody two-shoes, a straight-A girl, and I took pride in my studies." Perhaps Strahovski's early experience with multiple languages helped her perfect her American accent, which quite frankly is flawless. Though she eventually left home, she's maintained her Polish roots and can still speak the language fluently. Strahovski has had a taste for the arts from a young age, and it wasn't just acting that she was interested in. In fact, she studied dance from the ages of 5 to 18. She eventually chose to pursue acting over dance, but the skills she picked up have served her well throughout her career. For example, when she had to do fight scenes on Chuck, her dancing abilities came in handy. As she told TV Guide in 2007, "I have a memory for choreography. It's not hard for me to do all that stuff. In fact, it's one of my favorite parts of the job." She's also been able to show off her dancing skills by actually dancing, and the likes of Chuck and the Australian series Stateless. Strahovski was obsessed with acting when she was a kid, although she didn't always feel like she was suited for it. As she admitted to the New Zealand website Stuff in 2017, "I remember being the lanky, goofy, acne-covered child who was always clowning around in front of a home video camera, and there was just never any question in my mind that I wanted to go down this path." Alas, Strahovski's parents were concerned that an acting career wasn't stable enough for their daughter, so they tried to convince her to pursue medicine or law instead. But she was stubborn, and once she made up her mind, her parents became supportive. Strahovski eventually enrolled in the University of Western Sydney's acting program, where she trained for 3 years. As she explained in an interview for AussieTheatre.com, "That degree was predominantly stage-based. I think we weren't too prepared for the camera world when we graduated, even though most of our castings and auditions and things were for camera." Things weren't exactly easy for Strahovski during this time, as she had to make ends meet with odd jobs like ushering at a movie theater and waitressing. As she recalled the Stuff, "I enjoyed waitressing. It was kind of like going to the gym for 10 hours. It felt very satisfying after a hard day's work." Shortly after graduating from drama school, Strahovski began working professionally in Australia in commercials and on TV shows. Her early work included ads for Domino's, razors, and kettle chips. She was also cast opposite fellow Australian actress Rachel Taylor in the drama series Headland. Strahovski's lack of camera training in school meant that these first few jobs were like additional training for her. As she put it in an interview for AussieTheatre.com, "It was more like I hit the ground running and learnt on the job in a way." Strahovski soon began to rack up a healthy list of credits, although she never imagined that she would end up moving to the United States so quickly. Nevertheless, she did visit there for pilot season with some friends. While in Hollywood, she found an American manager, and after that, things started to develop pretty quickly. Everything changed for Strahovski after one fateful audition. In 2007, her American manager sent her a script for the action spy comedy drama series Chuck. She was back in Australia at the time, but within 3 days of returning to America for her audition, she'd landed the role. As she put it in a chat with AussieTheatre.com, "I call it my fairy tale story." At first, Strahovski was sure that she'd eventually have to return to Australia, as she recalled the Stuff in 2017. "It was me and my little blue suitcase for the rest of that year because I kept thinking, oh, I'm probably going to go home now. After the pilot and an indie movie and Chuck was picked up for a series, I realized I probably should rent a proper place because I was living in a shoebox studio apartment and rented 8 cars by that point from a Hollywood rental place." Chuck lasted for 5 seasons on NBC from 2007 to 2012, and after it ended, Strahovski's career really started to take off in America. From 2012 to 2013, she starred on the Showtime series Dexter as the deadly Hannah McKay for the show's final 2 seasons. She initially didn't realize that her character would end up hanging around for so long. As she told Collider in 2013, "I was surprised when I got to the end of season 7 and I read that scene where she leaves the black orchid at his doorstep. I thought, wow, this is a pretty open ending. This might mean that they want me back." I was definitely surprised to have survived and to have played such a pivotal role in the actual ending. It was quite a journey and quite an experience. Soon thereafter, Strahovski landed another major role when she was cast in 24 Live Another Day, which presented some new challenges for her. As she admitted to Collider in 2014, "I think the style and the way that this show is filmed with the cameras always moving means that you can't really lie in front of these cameras. They're really with you in the moment and they linger. That's what I like about this show." Perhaps the biggest role of Yvonne Strahovski's career thus far kicked off in 2017 when she started playing Serena Joy Waterford in Hulu's dystopian drama The Handmaid's Tale. For Strahovski, the show presented an opportunity to explore a fascinating, complex role unlike any she'd played before. As she explained to Flair magazine in 2017, "It was very hard to relate to her. I don't really relate to her. There's not a lot to like about her. She's very unfriendly, she's unapproachable, she's very harsh, she's brutal at times. And you'll see her be more brutal as the show goes on, and it's not something that came easily." She added, "I saw this woman who was an empty carcass, a shell, with not a lot around her to fill those empty holes, and that turned her into a monster, but also a monster that had to try and survive in this cage, in this world." While Strahovski may have found it difficult to play Serena, she made it look easy, and she even earned an Emmy nomination for the show's second season.
She's not like Serena. Yvonne is not like Serena. They're very different. You're very sweet.
2017 was a big year for Strahovski. Not only did The Handmaid's Tale start airing then, it was also when she got married. She and her now husband, Tim Loden, said "I do" at a low-key ceremony in Paso Robles, California. The wedding was so low-key, in fact, that the public didn't even find out about it until months later, as Strahovski revealed the big news at the Emmy Awards that September. As she recalled, "We had a heat wave and we ended up jumping in the lake in our suit and gown just to cool down. It was just ridiculously hot, but we had a great time."
We all made it through. We all did some dancing at the end of the night. It was fantastic.
Strahovski first met Loden back in 2010 when he guest starred on an episode of Chuck. These days, the couple appear to be as happy as ever. On New Year's Eve 2019, Strahovski wrote a touching tribute to her hubby on Instagram, in which she called him her greatest support, while adding, "Here's to continued adventure, life, and love without limits, amazing health and balance, connection and community, more outdoors, and crazy good creativity." In October 2018, Strahovski and Loden welcomed their first child, a son named William. She announced the birth in a touching Instagram post as she declared, "My heart has melted into a billion pieces 1,000 times already. We have been blessed with the greatest joy of our lives, our baby boy." Strahovski worked steadily in the lead up to the birth, but as she told Vogue in July of 2018, "I'm due for a break. It's been a little nonstop." As Strahovski later told Glamour, she worried that the bad energy of her Handmaid's Tale character might rub off on her baby. As she put it, "I was always envisioning him growing inside of me, separate in this safety bubble that nothing could touch. No matter what kind of emotion I was portraying on camera, I just really tried to separate it." When Strahovski returned to set after giving birth, her husband was right there to help her. As she recalled, "He came to work with me every single day with my babies, so I was never far away and could still breastfeed on demand." Despite all that support during her pregnancy, Strahovski actually struggled to be around her husband for a bizarre reason.
Women start to gag around their husbands because they can no longer stand the smell of them, which is exactly what happened to me.
Strahovski's acting career has largely taken place in America, but in 2018, she returned to her homeland to work on the movie Angel of Mine, which was shot in Melbourne. It was Strahovski's first time back in Australia in 3 years, and it had been even longer since she'd worked there, so she actually had to relearn her Australian accent. As she explained to Vogue, "It does help being here in Melbourne and surrounded by an Australian crew and having friends here in Melbourne who are keeping it real for me and my weird mashy accent." Strahovski talked about her accent struggles some more during a 2019 appearance on Late Night with Seth Meyers, as she admitted, "I feel so un-Australian saying that it's harder to do the Australian accent now than it is to do the American one. I've spent 12 years here and most of my roles, in fact all of them except 3, have been in an American accent of some kind. When I go back home, it's very awkward to get the note from the director that, 'Oh, you have to do that again because you sounded a little bit American.' It's shameful." Strahovski managed to find time in between seasons of The Handmaid's Tale to take on a very different role in the 2020 Australian miniseries Stateless, which was based on true stories about people in Australian immigration detention. This was a nice change for Strahovski, but it definitely wasn't easy. As she told Telltale TV, "As I got myself into the mode of playing Sophie Werner, I realized, wow, we're really in for it. And I was. It was an incredibly intense journey, but I definitely loved going down it. I learned so much and we're really proud of the work." While Strahovski had struggled to find anything in common with Serena on The Handmaid's Tale, Sophie was much easier to relate to. As she put it, "I sort of melted into her." Stateless also gave Strahovski the opportunity to meet real refugees. As she recalled, "Just in talking to them, it was so eye-opening for me. I had not met anyone before who had been through something like that, which just made the experience much more powerful."
There were many stories that we heard in the first few days of working and getting to know these people, of what they've been through. I mean, there's a lot of emotion, a lot of tears.
Based on Strahovski's intense approach to her career thus far, we're sure that there are many more great things in store for her. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more list videos about your favorite stars are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.